Roger Ebert is one of the greatest film critics who ever lived. His writing changed how people talked about cinema. His reviews introduced generations of moviegoers to films that they might have never found on their own. He was brilliant, generous, and one of the most important cultural voices of the 20th century. He was also completely wrong about video games. In April of 2010, Ebert published an opinion piece on his website titled, "Video Games Can Never Be Art." Not probably aren't, never. He doubled down on a position he'd staked out years earlier, this time responding to a TED Talk by a game designer, Kelly Santiago. And while Ebert was gracious enough to call Santiago bright, confident, and persuasive, he spent the rest of the article dismantling her arguments, dismissing her examples, and continuing with the confidence of a man who had famously never played a video game in his life, that no gamer then living would survive long enough to see the medium become art. Today, we're going to respectfully, thoroughly, and completely disagree. Before we push back, let's be fair to what Ebert was actually saying, because the article is more nuanced than the headline suggests. His core argument wasn't simply video games are dumb, it was a philosophical one, that games, by definition, have rules, objectives, and outcomes, and that you can win them, and that the ability to win something separates it fundamentally from art, which you can only experience. He writes, "One obvious difference between art and games is that you can win a game. It has rules, points, objectives, and an outcome." He then adds, "I would say that it ceases to be a game and becomes a representation of a story, a novel, a play, dance, a film. Those are things you cannot win, you can only experience them." It's a genuinely interesting philosophical position, and it is, as we'll see, completely dismantled by the actual games that exist. Here's where the article starts to show its cracks. Ebert responds to 3 games Santiago presents in her TED Talk: Waco Resurrection, Braid, and Flower. He dismisses all 3. Waco Resurrection he calls one more brainless shooting gallery. Braid he finds unconvincing, calling its between-level prose on the level of a wordy fortune cookie. Flower he describes as being no more than decorative interest on the level of a greeting card. Now, whatever you think of those 3 specific games, notice what Ebert is doing here. He is evaluating interactive experience he has not played based on still images and a 15-minute talk. He's a man who has spent his entire career arguing that cinema must be experienced in a theater, that you cannot judge a film by a description or a still, and he is judging video games from descriptions and stills. The contradiction is significant. Ebert understood that film works because it operates on you. It surrounds you. It moves. It uses music and silence and editing and the specific magic of images in sequence to produce emotional effects that cannot be summarized or paraphrased. And then he looked at 3 video games through the thinnest possible lens and declared the medium artistically bankrupt. Now let's talk about what Ebert didn't discuss, because the article was written in 2010, and even by then, the counter-arguments were abundant, and in the years since, they have become overwhelming. Shadow of Colossus, released in 2005, 5 years before Ebert's article, is a game in which you hunt and kill 16 enormous creatures, each one more spectacular than the last. And as you kill them, as you are winning, the game turns the victory against you. The Colossus doesn't attack first. They are ancient, peaceful giants, and you are the intruder. With each one you kill, the character grows paler and more hollow. The game's final act reveals that everything you fought for has been a lie, and the cost of your victories is something you can never take back. It's a meditation on violence, complicity, and the seduction of purpose. And the fact that you play it, that you are the one wielding the weapon, makes that meditation 10 times more powerful than any film could possibly show you in the same events. What Remains of Edith Finch, released in 2017, is a game in which you walk through a family home and experience the stories of family members who have died one by one. There are no enemies. You cannot lose. In one sequence, you play as a young boy working at a cannery line who escapes into fantasy while his hands continue to work automatically on screen, his imagination soaring while his body stays trapped, until the fantasy takes over entirely and the world disappears. It is a sequence about disassociation, about poverty, about the human need to escape. and it's communicated through the act of playing it in a way that is simply not replicable in any other medium. Disco Elysium is a role-playing game with no combat, built entirely around dialogue, internal monologue, and the slow reconstruction of a broken man's identity and conscience. It was written at a literary level that no serious reader could dismiss. It won 4 BAFTA awards, including Outstanding Achievement in Story and Narrative Development. The Last of Us told a story about love, grief, and the moral compromise of survival that was compared to Cormac McCarthy, the same McCarthy Ebert himself invokes in articles as an example of genuine literary achievement. Ebert draws a line between Santiago's 3 examples and the work of Melis, writing that the silent film pioneer had limited technical resources but superior artistry and imagination. What would he have made of Journey, a game of pure wordless movement through a vast landscape designed to be completed with a stranger online in which you communicate only through a single sound, and the meaning of that encounter shifts entirely depending on what the other player does? What would he have made of Ico, in which an entire emotional architecture of the game is built on holding a girl's hand through a crumbling castle and the loneliness you feel when you let go? If you've made it this far and are enjoying what you've seen and heard, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Let's return to Ebert's central philosophical argument, the one about winning. He says you can win a game, and that this separates games from art, but this argument proves too much. You can win at chess. Ebert agrees that chess is not art, fine, but you cannot meaningfully win Shadow of Colossus without feeling like you've lost something. You cannot win What Remains of Edith Finch. There is nothing to win. You cannot win Journey in any sense that matters. The act of completing The Last of Us is not a victory. It is an experience that leaves you sitting quietly in a darkened room, unsure about how to feel about what you just did. Ebert anticipates this objection and says that if a game has no rules or objectives, it ceases to be a game and becomes a representation of a story. But this is a circular reasoning. He is essentially defining art as anything that isn't a game, and then using that definition to prove that games aren't art. He has drawn a line where it is most convenient for his conclusion. The more honest position is the one that Kelly Santiago was pointing towards in her talk. The distinction between a game and an artwork is not a wall, it is a spectrum, and games have been moving along that spectrum for decades, producing works that sit comfortably on the art end, works that use the specific properties of interactivity to do things that no other medium can do. Near the end of his piece, Ebert asks a question that is worth taking seriously. Why do gamers care so much about being validated as art? Why aren't they content to enjoy their games? It's a fair question, and the answer is that the stakes are higher than personal validation. When a medium is categorically dismissed as not art, it affects funding, affects criticism, affects the kind of work that gets made and supported. The argument that games cannot be art is not neutral. It is an argument that closes doors. It tells creators in that medium that certain ambitions are off limits by definition, that certain questions don't belong to them. This is why it matters, not because gamers need Ebert's blessing. As he acknowledged, they didn't, but because the conversation about what a medium can do shapes what that medium becomes. Roger Ebert wrote his article in 2010 and he died in 2013. He never had the chance to play The Last of Us, or Disco Elysium, or Outer Wilds, or Celeste, a game about anxiety and self-acceptance that has helped more people process mental illness than most therapeutic memoirs. He never got to sit with Hades or Undertale or Return of the Obra Dinn. He never got to experience 13 Sentinels, Aegis Rim, or the closing hours of Nier Automata, which asked questions about consciousness, purpose, and sacrifice that would have given any philosopher pause. It is genuinely sad, because Ebert was the kind of critic who could have written about these games with devastating insight. He had the vocabulary, the intelligence, and the emotional openness. He just never got past the door. The games were art all along. He simply never played them. So here's what I want to know from you. What is the game that you would have put in front of Roger Ebert? What is one game you believe would have changed his mind if only he had been willing to pick up the controller? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. This is 3PC, Past Present Pop Culture. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.